I think we're all here. It is 3:31. We'll call the Tuesday, May 25th, 2021 FARGODOME Authority meeting to order. Before we get to number one, any additions or revisions to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Second.
First by Nancy, second by Dave. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Move on to number one, approval of the April 27th minutes. I entertain a motion there on approval of the minutes.
So moved.
First by Mike, second by Rick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, any old business to bring before the authority? Hearing none, we'll move on to number three, new business, and the general manager's report. Rob?
All right. We'll start on page 4. As always, left-hand side of the page is the month. This month, it's the month of April. Right-hand half of the page is the year-to-date, so we'll start with the month of April. We had 3 events with an attendance of just about 13,000, which was about 25,500 below budget. Total event income of just about 30,000, which is significantly less than the budget at 271,500. And we had indirect expenses of just about 298,000, but that was nearly $35,000 below the budgeted 332,700. So for the month of April, we did have a net deficit of just about $148,000 compared to a budgeted surplus of 75,500. On the event side, why that happened, obviously the Maroon 5, you may have heard the news that show for the Fargo show did cancel. So we had cancellation expenses associated with that. And also we did run another budgeted concert through, so that created a significant deviation from budget. NDSU events, we did have 2 NDSU home football games. One was at the 50% capacity. It was the last regular season game against South Dakota State. And the second one was only at about 25% capacity because that was the playoff game versus Eastern Washington. So that was $50,000 above budget. Obviously, as those games weren't budgeted in the month of April or budgeted for this year. On the family event side, the El Zago Shrine Circus also did not happen this year due to everything going on, so that resulted in about $107,000 deviation. And we also did run through one of the budgeted concerts that would have been in the theater set, again about $30,000. Another event that did happen that was not budgeted, the Midwest Premier Football League did do a spring youth football showcase event, which is showed about normal with our typical youth football games, so a slight deviation from budget there. On the indirect expense side, labor, we were again $13,500 below budget due to no competitive wage adjustment at the beginning of the year, and also our full-time staff. However, that'll change now. As I mentioned, we did hire John Ferry in our food and beverage department as the suite and catering manager, and so he is starting now and getting things fit up, and we'll be taking over suite catering and things as quickly as possible. With that, the operations was about $16,000 below budget, with management of steam, electricity, with everything going there, but we did continue to have more building repairs with water heater and some heating and ventilating equipment repairs. Questions on the month of April? Year to date, I'm not going to spend too much time on because Barry's in the room and it's negative, so we don't want to give him the story. See, this is the last meeting you can't see me smile behind my mask. So, we continue to operate at a deficit with all the cancellations and postponements through the first 4 months of the year. So we do remain at a deficit through April of about $464,000. We're doing what we can to contain operating expenses. As you can see, we're about $153,000 below budget with the operating expenses, but that doesn't take the full brunt of the lack of events. The good news is, we're obviously still waiting for most of the concerts to come back, the tour, the routes, the shows to get back out on the routes and starting that. But from this point forward, we do not see any event cancellations happening. Obviously we've got the Fargo Marathon that normally happens in May. That'll be happening in September. You saw the announcement, which we support, that NDSU will be at full capacity for football this fall with tailgating. So we've got Happy Harry's Rib Fest coming up in 2 weeks. We've had NDSU commencement last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and have high school graduations coming up. So things seem to be rapidly returning to normal. Now it's just a matter of getting everything started back up and getting the big shows on the road and into the buildings and things such as that. Questions on the financials?
Yeah, have you been aware of any indoor concerts, or when the first one will
Any
be?
significant size? No.
Nothing yet, quite yet.
When I say that, I'm not aware of, a 10
It's
or
coming.
15,000 plus. I
Yeah.
know Bismarck, I believe it was last week, because I know they were at the Metro Park in Montana. Toby Keith started his dates. Those are less than 10,000, less than 7,000. But they're coming back. Most of the dates right now are still staying outside.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens for the rest of the year.
Okay, any other questions on the month-to-date or year-to-date financials? I'll leave
I'll
it.
move to approve the April financial report.
Okay, thanks, Rick.
Second.
Second by Dave. Roll call?
Nancy?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Troy?
All right, past events. Since our last meeting, which was at the end of April, as I mentioned previously, we did have the spring commencement a couple of weeks back on Saturday the 15th. They had two ceremonies. They did actually use the entire football field. They ticketed the patrons. I believe each participating graduate was allowed 4 tickets. So they sat on the east, north, and south ends. The stage was along the west wall. All the participants were on the floor, spaced out, facing west. All indications were it was quite successful. Everybody was pleased. I think there were some glitches with the ticketing side of things, but that was new to everybody. So there were some issues, email securities for all entities, which is, to be expected. So that was unfortunate, but I believe it was handled well. Got through it, and I think that it's an option to look at, but I believe it'll be going back to 2019 and prior for commencement exercises here on out. Then last week, Sanford Health did have an employee appreciation event, private event here in the arena, so that generated a little activity for our staff. It's been a while since they had to do somewhat of a quick changeover from a commencement set, get ready and get loaded in for another set. So there actually was a little air of excitement in the building for, oh, hey, we actually have to do this and do it quick. But so things went well, and that takes us up to today. Any questions on past events? Moving forward then, as I mentioned, next week, the high school graduations, Fargo high school graduations, North, South, and Davies will be moving into the building and rehearsing on Thursday and Friday. We will then have their 3 ceremonies on Sunday, the 6th. And again, another quick turnover back to it with everybody getting ready for Happy Harry's Rib Fest outside, starting 6 a.m. Monday morning, setting that up, with the event happening 11 to 11 Wednesday the 9th through Saturday the 12th. And then we continue through June with NDSU having their football camps, So it's 2019 and we're going, so we're looking forward to it. Questions on upcoming events from anyone? Just a couple other notes, too, for the group. As far as the Shuttered Venues goes, I saw an update today. To date, the Shuttered Venues program has received 12,570 applications, and 90% of them were defined as small businesses. They claim that based on the number received and the amounts for which they are eligible, the SBA indicates that funds are still available. The majority of the applicants had come from priority groups 1 and 3. So Susan, does that mean priority group 1 was those that had more than 90% loss, overall loss in revenue, and number 3 included governmental entities, correct?
Yes, 0 to 70% loss and
They said there was a total of 17,000 applications started, and next week the agency will be sending out emails to those who have not completed, so about 4,500 to see if they wanted to do that. The most significant issues found with the applications is the Form 4506T, which Susan is extremely familiar with. Let's see if she knows what that is. Yeah, it has something to do with the tax forms. And I think the biggest issue people are having is the governmental entities. It's not applicable to them, so they didn't submit it or couldn't submit it. So they're working through that.
What group are we in? Okay.
And 0 to 70. The second most significant issue is that these people who have, some people have been applied, have been put on the do not pay list. That was created by the federal government, I believe, so they're having to correct that. That's kind of what there is. There's not a whole lot more information. The portal only provides limited updates such as your application was submitted and your application is in review. Those are the only statuses. Priority 1 applications, they're expected to release the updates on that in the next 10 to 14 days, which actually is longer than it should be taking because it's nearly a month that was put in. And so far the top 10 states that have generated applications, I mean, hard to believe the top 4: California, New York, Florida, Texas, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Georgia, Washington, and Massachusetts. So we're still waiting.
I mean, could be a game changer.
It could be significant, yes. I think we submitted 2 to 3 million. 3 million. The limit was up to 10 million. We don't, frankly, anticipate getting the full amount, but at this point, anything helps.
Yeah. Okay.
So just, again, doing our due diligence to make sure we're trying to take advantage of any opportunities that may be out there.
Well, great job getting that in.
Then the only last update is, I know, based on comments I've heard, that you'll be probably upset to hear, but this will be the last month that the authority is meeting in this room. We'll start meeting into the back into the admin conference room, starting with next month, as June 1st, as you probably read, the city of Fargo is removing the mask requirement as part of the employment requirements. Anybody who wants to wear a mask is encouraged and welcome to wear a mask. However, they will no longer be required, just strongly encouraged in city buildings. So for Happy Harry's Rib Fest and beyond, or at least for Happy Harry's Rib Fest, because we are the promoter on that, masks will just be encouraged, not required. But we will work with the promoter of events, because as I'm on calls every week, I hear there is just a hodgepodge of stuff all over the board for promoters as far as what they think they can require, want to require, can require, actually end up requiring, different things such as that.
Okay.
If there's nothing else, that would end my report.
Thank you. It was a busy Building and Finance Committee meeting, so we'll move to 3B and committee reports.
And I was unable to attend that meeting, but I'll muddle through this. If I miss anything or you want to add anything, feel free to do so as we go through this. Starting out with the 2022 budget presentation. There's a presentation of the budget. I think budgeted revenue in excess of expenses was $49,256. That was reviewed and recommended for approval by the Building and the Finance Committees. The capital budget was also reviewed. The capital budget totaled $1,599,831, including $925,000 bond payment. The capital budget was also reviewed and recommended for approval by the Building and Finance Committees.
I think it's important to note on that, like you said, Rick, on the capital budget, that 1.6 seems like a big number. The 925 is the bond payment, the fifth bond payment on the turf, and so the real kind of capital expenditures is just under 675,000.
Great, thank you. The April financial reports we've already reviewed. The next item was the computerized ticketing contract. There were 3 proposals received for that contract. The committees reviewed the proposals and recommended Ticketmaster as the computerized ticket provider effective January 1, 2022 for 5-year term. And again, that was moved and approved by the Finance Committee. Anything on that, Rob, to add?
Anything to add on that?
Just a couple things. We talked about our committee meetings. The committee that I mentioned, I just want to make sure everybody understands, it was pretty comprehensive. It wasn't just ticketing and finance. It also involves sales and marketing, and it involves administration. It's a lot of customer service issues. It's a pretty diverse group that worked through that. And our priorities really were functionality, support, and experience. We wanted to become revenue neutral at least. Better obviously, but money was not the primary driver, it was functionality, support, and experience.
All right. Next item was some project updates. The fire alarm system bid. There were a number of proposals. Was it 5?
3 proposals.
3 proposals for the fire alarm system. The proposals came in somewhat higher than the original budget estimate. The original budget estimate was $155,000. The recommended proposal came in at $260,470. That required some reallocations of some other project line item budgets that in the amount of $105,000. And with that, the reallocations and the proposal from JDP Electric was reviewed and moved and approved by the Building and Finance Committees to accept that proposal. Anything else on that?
No, actually, it was, just to clarify, the bids came in, the JDP bid was $208,000, and we also accepted an $11,400 alternate on that, which is the graphic user interface. So it was essentially $220,000. The $260,000 comes from with architecture fees, architecture engineering fees, and a project contingency. So just reset the budget at $260,000, but that is all funded with that reallocation. They are all capital balances, capital projects that are finished. So they're just taking the remaining balances of those areas and reallocating to the project. Excuse me, to the project. We did discuss it with the engineer, Barberg Engineering, about maybe just rejecting all bids because they were too high. But if you're looking at the bid sheet, 208 was a good bid. The next one was over $100,000 higher. So rebidding wasn't going to get us anything lower. So we decided to move forward with it. JDP was very comfortable with their proposal.
No, that's add to it, please. And then the last item here on projects that I have is reallocation request for a VFD servicing. There's a replacement of the VFD unit servicing chiller pump number 10, whatever all that means. but that's in here. It's one of 2 chiller pumps that provide cooling system to the arena, and there was a motion made to reallocate $13,000 from project 2111 budget and unallocated to create project FD 2115 chiller pump number 10 VFD unit to fund this item. That was also reviewed and approved by the Building and Finance Committees. Anything else on that?
I think that's plenty of talk on the VFD.
All right, good to hear. And the last item from the Building and Finance Committee that I have is the escrow for the FARGODOME was reviewed. The permanent fund escrow was reviewed. Total assets as of 3/31 or 2/28?
Yes.
Offhand?
30.
Thank you. Was $47,569,000, and year-to-date through March of 2021, the return has been 16.57%.
Keeping in mind that 47.5 million is after we took 1.25 out to pay for capital projects.
With that, I would move to approve the Building and Finance Committee report.
Okay, thank you, Rick. We have a motion by the committee chair, so we'll move right to roll call.
Nancy?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Troy?
Okay, thank you. Any additional items? 22 minutes, oofda. Yeah, hearing none, we are adjourned.